Normal people don't start businesses. It's not something normal people do. It takes a lot to bet on yourself. We could be having many traumatic episodes every single day just by simply scrolling social media without even realizing it.
It's like the best way you can corrupt families and society is by completely splitting everybody from each other.
The world needs a simplified tax book. I am going to solve that problem. What do you think about Andrew Tate? It's all about like, dude, how do I get bread in my pocket? I'll do whatever. I'll do whatever. Like, as long as it's ethical, I'm gonna do whatever I can to make an extra dollar. But then, like, when you start making money, then you start factoring in choices. You're like, I don't want to do that because that requires me to stay up until 8 o'clock every night. I don't want to do that because that requires me to have all these clients depending on me. Oh, I don't want to do that, but that requires somebody having access to my cell phone number. So you can start to pick and choose what things you want to do.
Yeah. No, like certain things about that industry, like, you know, high level B2B, there's a budget. There's multiple people involved. Like, you know, you do a good job, they're not gonna go behind your back and screw you over. If they do, you got like there's things to protect you. If I get in the coaching space, bro, we'd have like part of the industry is like 10% of the people are gonna either like, or maybe less. We had like about a 5% like dispute refund rate, but it's also because we were growing so fast.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really handle all the fucking things that were coming in. And I had a lot of clients who would pay, disappear for like 2 months, and then come back and ask for, I'm like, gee, you know, like 3 months ago, marketing is different every 3 months. Whatever I sold you then may not work now.
Yeah.
And then I had very unethical battles. And then also, to be honest, I'm a low-key guy. As much as I do this, I don't like filming my car. I don't like talking about the money I make. Fuck that shit. Like I was never born and raised that way.
Yeah.
And so that also felt super out of identity.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
but you stick to the things that you feel like are you, and you just double down on that.
Yeah. I didn't know, but these are all lessons I learned this year. You know what I'm saying? So it's been good. It's been good, dude. But what about you? You're partnered up with your brother, huh?
Yeah, you know my brother, right?
I met him once, I think, at the gym. Like, not really met. It was just like I was on the bicycle.
Yeah, when it comes to like partnering up, like it's definitely like on a deep level. So we were like best friends, like always been best friends, played sports together. He went off to Cal Baptist University and stopped playing sports, and I went off to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and got a football scholarship. And then we both, when he graduated, he started working in my mother's firm, but also started his marketing agency. And when I graduated, I started working for a sales company. But my job in my sales company, it wasn't challenging me enough. So I decided to leave that job and join my mother's company where he was already kind of partially working there. And how we teamed up was his background was in marketing and my background was in sales. So what I wanted to do was be able to get enough leads coming my way to where I could start building my own commission structure inside of my mom's company. And so he figured out a way in which he can automate a system to get leads onto my calendar without me having to call people. And this is when we started learning about VSL funnels and webinars and stuff like that. And so he started geeking out on Russell Brunson and Sam Ovens and all these marketing gurus who were teaching about funnels and webinars and, you know, how to use email lists and database to be able to drive traffic. And that's how we were able to scale our company and build it up.
That's cool, man. That's cool. We'll save this for the podcast. Are we ready? Are we filming?
I was going to say, I figured we were probably already recording.
Yeah, I didn't even know if we started.
I felt like that was already a topic.
Yeah.
You guys can take from there.
Yeah.
Do your intro and begin from there.
No, we'll take care of the intro after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. No, I kind of like my type of the podcast style is like that. Like it's just.
That's the best type of podcast. I was literally thinking about that on the drive over here. I was like, I'm wondering if this is a podcast where I'm going to walk into it. It's like, all right, Karlton, like that. Or is this going to be like, let's just start and then we jump back into it?
No, not at all.
The natural podcast.
Some of my podcasts, like the first 30 seconds were just, hey, what's up, bro? It's just chit-chatting, you know?
Yeah.
Like, but I didn't even know we started. So.
That's the best.
But that's cool, man. It's funny, now that I know we're moving with this. I want to stick on the partnership thing because I don't hear that a lot about like you. I went over your brand and was doing research. You're known as the tax guy, the guy who gives all these business advices, but I don't think people like these days talk too much about partnerships.
Yeah.
Because when I ran off and I did my agency, like it was like I was solo.
Yeah.
Right. Previously, the cybersecurity company, it's a family business. Different dynamic, right? So it's cool when you're solo because you kind of move faster. But now that I look back, I'm like, I don't know. I like having partners, and I think for like longevity of a business and for your sanity too, because there's just certain things that you just can't do at a certain level.
Yeah.
You know, alone. So I'd love to get your 2 cents on that, because now that I'm hearing like, okay, your mom's involved too.
Yeah.
You got like that's not really talked about with your brand. So let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah. So first off, like, I partnered with my mother, and a part of my mother's brand, Karlton Dennis and Associates, she wanted every single person who was her child to eventually be able to work in the company if she chose to. So, or if we chose to. And so when me and my brothers grew up, we were always like adverse to wanting to work in our mother's firm because it was taxes, like it would be boring. But we also wanted cash too. We wanted to hang around mom. So we would go in her office sometimes and do like little mundane tasks like picking up staples off the ground or copying or printing stuff out to like support her. So we were partners with her at a young age in her business, even though we didn't really see it as that. And then when I graduated from college and when my brother Kenny graduated from college, we realized, dude, we could work in all these other family-owned businesses, or we could just join our mother's family-owned business and figure out a way to scale that. And so as we were learning about how other entrepreneurs were building, brands and finding success, we decided to partner together and help build my mother's brand. And as we were building my mother's brand, I decided, you know what, I want to get my tax knowledge. Like, I want to have a brand too. And that's when I got on YouTube and started building my brand in that sense.
How long did that period take you between like, I'm not sure, to actually accepting the identity and going with it?
I would say it probably took about like 3 years because early on, I was more focused on wanting to be a fitness trainer. So I had my background in kinesiology. That's what I majored in college. I minored in nutrition. And I wanted to go on and be like a fitness trainer to celebrities, or potentially even be like an IFBB pro bodybuilder. Like,
really?
That was what I had in my mind. I was like, I thought I could do it.
That's so different
from
what you're doing now.
So different, because I was all football, and with kinesiology and football, you're spending a lot of the time in the gym and studying how the body works. So mentally, I was like, you know what? I've been through so much. I could put my body through rigorous training to be able to step on stage and do something like that, or at least train people in the meantime while I'm working on that.
Yeah.
And so when I joined my mother's company, the intention was to give myself more time to be able to work on my side hustle. But what I found out being in my mother's company within the first 3 months is the opportunity that she was creating for other people and the money she was making too. And I'll be honest, I was young. I was only 21. So to me, I wanted to have a lifestyle. I wanted to be able to travel. I was seeing some of my friends at the time taking off to go to Europe trips right after graduating from college, going to all these different music festivals, and I couldn't afford that yet. And so I thought, well, if I just sit here and learn what she's doing, I think I can build up my cash flow while I'm doing this personal training thing. But everything changed one day when I went into her office and I watched her close somebody for about $25,000 in a 30-minute time period. And I knew right then and there, what she knows, I have to know that.
It's important.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because do you think the lack of acceptance was because you found it to be boring? You're like, it's not.
Yeah, I thought it was boring at first, but when I realized that every single person in this world pays taxes and nobody understands how to avoid them, then it became like another game to me. Like, okay, here's football all over again. Like, solve this, become the best at this. And I realized that, okay, there is this 1%, right? The 1%ers, right? The people who are making more than, let's just say, $400,000 in a year. These 1%ers have figured out a way to use the United States tax system to pay the least amount of taxes possible, while the other 99% are paying the most in taxes. How does that work?
Yeah.
And so that gave me like a huge question mark over my forehead. And I'm like, okay, I got to go solve that problem. I got to go figure out how are the 1%ers paying the least amount of taxes possible. And that became fun to me on the sales end of it, because I wanted to talk to people who wanted to become like the 1%.
It's funny because people don't like view the government as a business. I don't think a lot of people do. I could be wrong. I don't know. But ever since I was a kid, I've always viewed the government as a business. And if you look at it from a business standpoint, well, whoever owns it must have benefits for it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like all these tax codes, I'm not like obviously not even close, but it's just the natural common sense that if you got the elites like who are making all this money, who pay nothing at the end of the year, then there's obviously a big gap of education there. But do you think that's done on purpose?
I think it's 100% done on purpose. And I think it's done on purpose because it limits fear and it keeps the system that's been created going. I mean, if you give everyone access to this information, even if you did give everyone access to the information, not everyone's going to act on it.
They're not going to use it.
Not everybody is going to use it. But the reason why this system is in place is because it supports the average person. It really does. The person who wants to depend on somebody else. And if you feel like that is you, this system that the government has created is perfect. Everything is actually perfect for you.
It's perfectly
Go to
catered that.
school,
Yeah.
take a loan out to go to a great university, take on debt. That's a great thing for you. And go get a high-paying job, which means you're going to pay the highest in taxes, like a doctor or a surgeon will. And then save up money to try to pay off those loans, which is probably going to take you until you're 35 or 40. And then by that time, go buy a house, which means you're taking on debt again and using the government's loan system again, the FHA loan or the commercial loan. It all works out perfectly.
Yeah, for you, but you're never free from anything.
Yeah, for the person who it just wants that, more or less average life. Now, if you're okay with that, that's completely fine. But here's the thing I want you to understand. There are people who have figured out this whole system that the government's created, and they just entered themselves onto the playing field and said, okay, I understand what the government's trying to do, and I understand what the government wants me to do to play in this game with them. And if I play in this game with them, it's going to require me to do some things that most normal people don't do. Normal people don't start businesses. It's not something normal people do. It takes a lot to bet on yourself. But if I do this, I'm providing jobs, and that's what the government wants me to do. Okay, so I'll get tax incentives for that. Normal people don't immediately go into real estate investing. They want to go buy their own primary residences. But if I go and do that, I'm now establishing affordable housing for multiple people. Most people don't go out and just want to go and become real estate investors and have tenants. So if I can play into this government's game, this government system, I'm going to avoid taxes while building my wealth. I can have a different lifestyle.
Have you always had that thought process, or was this integrated by the mom?
This was not only integrated by my mom, not only integrated by some of the taxpayers who I see who had the lifestyle, it was from the teachings that I was learning. So I started reading on the history of why taxes were the way that they were and why we decided to take the dollar off the gold standard and why we decided to print money and what fiat currency was and conservatory easement. And when I started studying all these different terms, it all started making sense of why things were the way they were for me in today's day and age. Why is it hard for me to graduate from college and I just can't go and get a home loan with only $20,000 in my bank account? Why is that so hard for me? But then when it comes to getting a loan to go to school, I can go get a $250,000 loan to go to USC or to go to Harvard, right? So I'm trying to understand these things. But later on, when I started studying Robert Kiyosaki and I'm really listening to my mother's teachings of what she told me and Tony Robbins, I start to realize, okay, I can either be upset or I can jump in. And I decided I'm not going to be upset because that's what they would want me to be. That's what they would want me to be. They would want me to be upset and just be frustrated. I'm just going to play their game and just get really good at it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And how long have you been now in full time with the company now?
So I've been with my mother's firm for 7 years now as a licensed enrolled agent, probably for the last 4 years.
Yeah. I love, how old are you now?
I'm 29.
29. Okay, really cool. And then looking back from when you were 22, 21, 22, 23, living solo, doing it solo versus a partnership. Yeah. What have you noticed to be the biggest differences?
My ability to scale faster because somebody has positioned themselves to care as much as you. The ability to avoid mistakes because someone else is watching your back and knows what your weaknesses are. And the ability to feel like there's more of a sense of satisfaction on what I'm building because it's not truly for me, it's truly for the people who I'm around. And so the partnerships I do have with my family have allowed me to feel like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I say that because we live in a society today that's so big on individuality.
Right.
I don't know if you believe that or not, but I see it all the time. And I hate that because the best way you can corrupt families and society is by completely splitting everybody from each other. And so when you look at the entrepreneurship world, you have a ton of content around, you got this king, do it yourself. Nobody really sits, I don't see a lot of content creators sitting down talking about the benefits of true partnership. Mm-hmm. If anything, you have people talking against it because now you got all the people, oh, should you do partners? Nah, you should go solo because it's a lot better, it's faster. Mm-hmm. Which I completely disagree with. I think if you have a good backing, a great family, people you could trust, 1,000% that is way more better than anything else of you going by yourself.
Yeah. Well, it also comes down to, and correct me if I'm wrong, where you get your information from, right? And I have various mentors, but one who more in particular, Grant Cardone, one of the things that he shared with me and some of the other members that we were at this event, he had told us, I wish at a younger age that I would have leaned into partnerships more. If there was
Really?
one thing I could have done better, is I would have started partnerships earlier on. And his mentality came from his walk of life. And his walk of life is, everyone's out to get me. There's competition. If I partner with somebody, what if they want to take something from me? So he lived in this state of fear, like I'm always going to lose something, rather than living in a state of abundance. And he talked about living from a place of abundance in the conference, in the meeting that we were having. And the way he was sharing this information, he was speaking to us because he wanted us to make a change ourselves. He wanted us to know, if you're feeling like this, you need to deal with it. You need to find a way to deal with it, because partnerships could be the way in which you get where you want to go a lot quicker. And so now Grant Cardone's biggest business, Cardone Ventures, is a partnership where he partners with different companies. And he has his Cardone Capital, where he's partnered with people for real estate investing, where he raises capital and goes into large-scale apartment buildings. And that is his biggest business today.
Yeah, I think though family businesses are different.
Yeah.
Because if I partner with just Joe Schmo, who like I just met, who I trust, who I think has great bad business experience, completely different than if I partner with my mom, my brother, because then like certain emotions can come into play.
They do.
So what are kind of things that you guys have a pretty successful business? So what are the kind of things that as a family you've implemented that you think have allowed you to continuously build your relationship with your mom and your brother outside of the business world without it affecting any sort of decisions you have to make inside the world?
Yeah, so first thing is realizing that it is going to affect both things that are going to happen in the personal world and in the business world. You have to be okay with it. You can't act like that's not going to happen. So come to the realization that if you're having a great day in business, it's probably going to carry over to what's going on in the family world. If you have a bad day in business, it's probably going to carry on to what's going on in the family world. You have to come to the realization that that's a possibility and that can happen. And once you understand that, great. How can we limit the bad days in the business, or limit the bad days as a family so it doesn't have an impact on the business? And these are the better things to focus on, right? Is limiting the bad days and focusing on the good, throwing more logs on the good flames. And so as being with my family, we've dealt with everything you could possibly think of: the emotions, the anger, the frustration, the jealousy, the money, whatever you want to call it. But one of the things that remains true is we love each other more than whatever can go on with the business. So we deal with the love thing first, right? And we always make sure that this whole thing right here is intact, because none of this really matters. If this is burned down and COVID shuts us down for 9 years, this is what we really care about the most.
True.
So we allow this right here to power everything that goes on over there. This is our generator.
That's beautiful. I think I asked that because when I initially started the cybersecurity business with my father, the biggest reason why I left to start my own thing is because there was this constant, I didn't think he meant it. Like, it was like, oh, my son, young kid, I've spent like 50 years of my life building this like business. And then he's going to come and tell me how to grow because my dad's like the nerd, right? Like he's like more of the tech guy, but he has no idea on like business development. I came in just barely out of college and I'm like, hey, you're going to do this. And he's like, slow your horses.
Oh,
and
for
so
sure.
I felt like a heavy, like, can't grow here. And so I kind of, I think I had like a chip to prove to myself and him in like a weird way. So I kind of went out and I was like, look, I'm going to show you what I can do. And it's helped a lot. I'm curious, did you deal with that at all initially?
Absolutely. I felt like I was limited in my ability to grow. There was like restraints where I had all these ideas and I knew what was best for the company or where we needed to go or who we needed to hire. And I was getting all this resistance. But I think God does everything for a reason, at least in my life, because rather than going out and trying to do this own thing on my own, I decided to continue to build from within. And what it did was it put pressure on other people to perform better and to accept the ideas that are going to allow for us all to have the lifestyle that we want to have. And patience was my biggest crutch. I've never been someone who was patient, but my brother is one of the most patient people, and this makes a great partnership. I think what allows for us to be a really great company is I'm the person that's the driver. I want things done already yesterday. And my brother's like, hold on a second, let's figure this all out. Let's look at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the risks, right? He's doing the whole SWOT analysis to try to figure out, what makes the best sense. And my mom is kind of in between. Like she has that driver mentality, but she also has that more setback mentality. So she's going to wait and kind of decide based on what she feels after she's heard everything. And so sometimes she's the whole end all be all on decisions, but what we decided as a team is maybe it doesn't make sense for all of us to always agree on every single decision. We just need to come to a conclusion that this is what's going to be in the best interest of the company and decide how we're going to vote on that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because what ended up happening early on in business was there was a lot of emotions, and it was always the person who was in charge that got to say that what was final. But as time went on, we started realizing, like, dude, every person that's been on this leadership board is part of the reason why this company is actually still existing. Like, it's not just that one person anymore. So how can we make sure that this whole unit gets to have a voice and we can move forward where everyone feels like they are independent inside this business?
Yeah. Another thing too I learned is like respect is earned.
Correct.
It's earned.
Yeah.
I was a bit like, it was a very egotistical perspective for me. Like, now looking back, like I think about it and I go, I could have stayed. I could have worked on myself. I could have done that. Like, I don't regret leaving at all because I think it's taught me the world of lessons, right? But it's I love the perspective that you have. That's why I wanted to focus specifically on this because I think it's a very interesting topic.
Yeah.
I definitely had to drop an ego though, like huge, for me to sit there and go, okay, maybe there's certain things we're not gonna understand, right? But like you said, every player has very good perspectives to give.
Of course.
And I think if we, sit together and take it all together, it creates much better decisions. But I'm like, what rules did you have to like apply for yourself specifically in terms of like your self-growth to get yourself to a point to be able to operate effectively under that umbrella?
So I'm the type of person, when I have an idea, I just want to implement it right away and just go. I realize that only works for certain things. That doesn't work for everything. And when I was trying to apply that method to our company, sometimes it would end up putting our company in what I would consider a danger condition because I didn't think about all the different outcomes that decision could make. And so rather than just bulldozing into stuff, what I've conditioned myself to do now is to create SOPs and slow myself down and run these things by other parties before I decide to just move forward in implementing it. And so there's a process of how things get implemented into our company now, as opposed to just saying, oh, Karlton had an idea, so we're doing it today, right? And so that works well on the content side, but sometimes when it comes to like me changing a process on how we're gonna deliver a service or what it might be, I wanna make sure that I have it vetted out and that the process exists with the people I have in play.
Yeah, guys like you are like amazing starters, like just drivers. Like if you want something, get it done 100%, rely on Karlton, right? But you need to have like somebody to hold the base.
Yeah.
To be able to like know when to not shake it, so that you can be crazy, up here. So like while they're taking care of everything, I think it's very, very important to have that balance. I mean, without that, you're not gonna scale. And the most beautiful part about having like a brother and a mother is the trust.
Yeah.
Trust is huge.
Yeah, it is.
In business, it's the hardest thing to find.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can find somebody that's loyal and trustworthy, I would much rather pick that than someone who has like insane skills, but I can't rely on them. That's cool, man. So what are you? So I know like you kind of started building your brand. You started to really get educated about taxes and strategies. I know like people talk a lot about like business and like what are some like top strategies for people that more so that are starting a business that you feel like they don't necessarily think about at all, or they're not educated, that can hurt them initially as a startup?
Yeah.
That if they were to learn, or like watching this podcast and they knew earlier on, like they can kind of apply and kind of.
Yeah, so, since we're kind of heading into this little down period here, I feel like there's going to be a big spike in day trading again. Just like how there was a spike in day trading, like right when the pandemic started. Like everyone was at home and, they didn't have their job, so people were picking up all these new skill sets. One of the things that I just recorded a video on today is the importance of knowing whether or not you actually want to be a day trader, because there's tax implications on whether or not you make this specific election. So the government has this election called the 475F election, and its terminology is called the mark-to-market election in the IRS world. Essentially, right now, if you decide if you want to be a day trader, if you do not make this 475F election, and let's just say you lose money this year as a day trader, when you file your tax returns next year, you're going to be limited to only $3,000 in losses. So that means if you're on Robinhood or FTX or whatever trading account and you lose money, that money is going to be only limited to $3,000 in losses taken on your tax return to offset what other income you might have. But if you make the election, which is called the mark-to-market election, you'll treat these the capital income you're earning as ordinary income, and all the losses you will experience will be considered ordinary losses. So you have no $3,000 limitation. Now you can deduct hundreds of thousands of dollars in losses if you need to offset other forms of income if you end up failing in day trading. So that election right there is super duper important, because that election has to be made within the first 3 months and 15 days of the year. So you really only have until about March 15th to make this election.
And there's different strategies for different brackets, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, there is. If you're in a higher income bracket, then we start looking at how can we move money off of your tax return into a different company, such as like a management company. Many business owners don't think about this because they do a lot of the managing of their own company in their own company, right? Maybe they're wearing the hat of hiring people. Maybe they're wearing the hat of doing research online to figure out whether or not they should set up an LLC, or they're speaking with tax accountants or attorneys. They're doing a lot of this management themselves, but they could all obviously set up a separate company that does 100% of this management, and their operational company can pay their management company. And this is a tax deduction. And this business doesn't have to file tax returns in the same year that this business does. So now you're playing with some of your money here and moving money over to avoid taxes over here. And you can offset the money that you have inside of your management company with completely different expenses.
At what point of income stream do you have to start looking at strategies like that?
I mean, I think it's important to know everything before you get into the game, but of course there's levels to it, and you don't want to get stuck in the mud. I think the first thing that you want to do is just get to profit as a business owner. And as you start getting profitable, so here comes Uncle Sam, the silent partner, right? And as your taxes start to become an issue, you're going to want to partner with someone who's more than just a tax accountant, someone who's just filing the returns. You're going to want to start to upgrade to also look at getting a tax strategist, someone who can help you reduce your tax bill by leveraging the tax code. And that's when you start having conversations around your entity structure, whether or not you should be an LLC or switch to an S corporation, or you should look at having a management company or even switching to a C corp.
That's interesting. And then that's what you guys focus on, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So you guys only work with specifically like higher net worth individuals, or are you?
No, we work with a wide variety of people. The reason why is because there's entrepreneurs who we'll work with who get started in a business, and then next thing you know, they're making $1 million within 2-3 months. So we work with people who are just getting started, and we've worked with people who have been making millions already. And so the most important thing that separates us is our customers who come to us are looking for ways to reduce their tax bill, not just file a tax return. So there has to already be some income generated.
I see. Okay. And I'm sure there's like tons of laws. I mean, I'm still learning, and there's like, holy smokes, so many different ways. What's like one strategy that like just sparks you? Like you're like, oh, this is cool.
Well, I just used the 179 vehicle deduction with bonus depreciation to buy a Lamborghini Urus, so I was pretty stoked about that one. That allowed
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll elaborate on the purchase. The vehicle was like, I don't know, $280,000. The government allows for you to place a vehicle that's over 6,000 pounds into business use and write off the full purchase price if the vehicle is 100% used for business, which my vehicle is. And this vehicle that I chose to write off is a Urus, so it's more expensive. So that $280,000, although I only put maybe a $45,000 down payment, I'm able to write off that full $280,000 against my taxable income. So that generated a little north of about $110,000 in tax savings.
And this is obviously the income for the company, right?
Yeah.
Do you operate like do you operate as an employee for the company, or
Yes.
or how is your structure with the company?
Yes, I'm an employee underneath my company.
Okay, so like when it comes to business, you business owners should have W-2s to the company. Right?
If there's enough profit to justify it, then yes.
If there's enough, and if you're just starting, how would you have that relationship?
Then you are just going to be a member underneath the company. You're not going to be an employee, and that's why most people start out as just LLCs early on in business. Once your business in our office, once your business hits more than 50K profit, we switch you from an LLC to an S Corp. So that way the money that you take out of your business is actually a tax deduction for your business. If you're an LLC and you decide to pull money out of your business, there's no tax deduction. You as an owner receive no benefit. But as soon as you switch over to an S Corp, by law, you have to take payroll, which means you're an employee. So the money you pulled out of your business becomes a tax deduction to your company.
Interesting. And when you're from a perspective, when people are first starting, when you're talking about like profit, are you talking about gross profit or net profit?
Net profit is always
Okay.
what's most important to a taxpayer because you can gross $1 million, but if you don't show anything as your bottom line, you're not going to pay any taxes. So for a tax accountant, we want to know what is your net profit because that allows for us to make decisions in real time around what you could do to reduce your tax bill.
And does that, so when you're first starting a business, like, and just, taking it from a complete novice perspective here, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're making, let's say, 15, 20, 30, $50,000 a month, right? You have your expenses, your house expenses, your rent, etc. Is that considered part of this quote unquote expenses for this business to profit? Like when you say profit, is that after like I've paid off my expenses and everything's taken care of?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have a home that you're using for your business, a part of those expenses that you have for your business are deductible, right? So we want to make sure we're factoring in the home office. Maybe it's 10% of your home is being used. So we want to factor that off of the business's profit to know what your true net is.
And I'm a little curious, can W-2 actual employees, like 9-to-5ers, benefit from any of these things?
Unfortunately, they can't, and that's a part of what we talked about earlier, how there's a system set up where when you go into the job force and you decide to work for somebody else, the business owner has already given you the opportunity. Thus, you are not responsible for paying employees. You're responsible for doing your job, checking in, checking out, and you still get that paycheck. Sometimes, whether you're working hard or not, you're still going to get paid the same. Right?
Interesting.
And so that's why you're limited on your deductions as a W-2 taxpayer. You get a 401k, you get an IRA, and you can write off your mortgage interest and your property taxes and any gifts you want to give to charity. That's about it, unless you decide to have children. And that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story. And then there goes the tax credits, but you're arguably going to be spending more money when you have children as opposed to saving money. So that's just how it works.
Interesting. So if I'm W-2, there's nothing I can do, like period. Like there's just the limited things that you just mentioned, but like I'd have to basically be like a contractor of some sort to, because then I'd have my own business.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're trying to relinquish money to a trust and, have a trust paying for, simple family things like a mortgage or a car payment, there's really not going to be a whole lot you can do as a W-2 taxpayer to reduce your tax bill. This is why the W-2 taxpayer has to move from the quadrant they're in. And this is why Robert Kiyosaki is so well known. Robert Kiyosaki is a wealth teacher, teaches people how to use the United States tax code to pay the least amount of taxes possible, how to invest in real estate. And he created this game called the cash flow quadrant and the cash flow game. And all he's doing is just teaching people to go from the E quadrant over into the I quadrant where they can become a professional investor. And there's different ways in which you can get there. But if you decide that you want to move from one quadrant to the next quadrant, you're going to have to take action. That requires you to either set up a business or go into real estate.
Huh. And from your business perspective, now that you've been doing it for quite a while, you guys have grown a lot. What do you think, like, let's go back to the partnership standpoint. What are like the top things that for somebody that's currently starting a business with a partner, like if they were to list like, hey, 5 rules, 10 rules you got to follow.
Yeah.
To have something successful work for someone else, what
Yeah.
would they be?
Number one, think with the end in mind. That is 100% where you have to start. Is this business going to be a business that you both are going to remain in, truly, really? Or is there an exit for one of you or both of you? Do you see yourself bringing in other partners? Do you see yourself bringing on employees? Work out your operating agreement. The operating agreement is typically something you have to establish when you're establishing an LLC or corporation. Inside of the operating agreement, create a buy-sell. What happens if one partner decides that they want to leave? What happens if one partner decides that they want to take money out of the company? You can work out all of these different decisions way ahead of time. So when things like this arise later down the road, when you're 2-3 years in and you're profitable and there's a whole lot of emotions at stake and one person has a whole family now and the other person's trying to drive the business forward, these things have already been solved. There's nothing more important than thinking with the end in mind as a new business owner.
I've actually, it's funny because I think even when people that like get into family, I never did that. Yeah, because like you kind of like, you're like, oh, I trust them, like, oh, we're good, we'll figure it out when it goes. Yeah,
yeah.
It definitely does create a lot of hiccups. Are you guys like, what's your end goal? Like 2023 is here, like, what are you trying to do with your brand? I know you're kind of like right now working to get to 1 million subs, so that's cool. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
It's pretty exciting. But from a business standpoint, like, what's the vision? What are you trying to build?
Yeah, so from a vision standpoint, the goal is to become a published author. And that's one thing that I have not ventured into. So I'm working on my patience to sit and write a book right now. And I've started that process.
For someone like you, that must be, why are you doing, is that purposely to like challenge yourself? Or?
Yeah, well, one, I think the world needs a simplified tax book.
I agree. Yeah. There's not like, it's very complex and it seems boring and so like,
the world needs a simplified tax book.
What are these?
I am going to solve that problem. I
love it.
saw a need. I saw a need, and I want to fix it. Also, I want to be able to take my YouTube channel to 1 million subscribers and plus. I think my brand has grown substantially, but I'm not happy with where it is now. I'm striving for more. I want to be the most well-known tax professional, and I think me and my team are doing a great job to position myself to do that. And then most importantly, I want to be able to position my brothers, since I don't have any children yet, position my brothers to be in a position where they have time freedom. And so I'm working right now with them on what they can do to scale their brands and their businesses. And that's honestly been like the funnest thing.
That's cool. So do you like being in the day-to-day ops of businesses? Are you more of like a hands-off type of operator? Like, how do you function?
I only like being in the day-to-day operations of dealing with my tax strategy clients. So I have like a list of private clients who I will deal with. I like being hands-on with them. Okay. So I only deal with about 75 clients a year that I deal with, and then my firm will deal with the rest. But of those 75 clients, I want to know who you are, where you're at, when you're traveling, your whole family situation. I like to be dialed in with those clients, and they pay me to make sure I'm 100% focused on their tax planning, but I love being able to work with them. Other than that, I'm a visionary. I'm typically doing promotion 100% of the time. I'm behind the camera, videos, content, podcasts, YouTube, travel, and making sure that I'm pushing the brand forward, and then also making sure that the implementers, which I have a great team, are implementing the ideas that I have and making sure that there's no hiccups along the way.
That's beautiful, man. Now switching up for a sec, let's talk about mental health. I want to get into this because drivers, like, I've experienced some interesting ups and downs this year, and I want to get into it because I've seen it with other entrepreneurs too. Guys like us were always go, 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 right?
Yeah.
I got myself to a point where I just checked out. I had to, and I realized, whoa, okay, this is not healthy. If I continue down this path, it's not going to be good for me. What things do you do? I know you work out. I know I see you all the time at the gym.
Yeah.
But like, what certain things do you do that you think that allow you to keep that energy up so that you're always consistently showing up for your team?
Got it. 3 things that I do that allows for me to stay consistent for my team and contributes to my mental health is 1, fitness. I gotta have fitness in my life. When I'm avoiding the gym or I'm not there, I start to feel my body feeling bad. I feel like I get sick sometimes eternally, and I don't have the energy levels, and I can't even think creatively, it seems like. So the gym contributes to who I am as a person. Travel. Anytime I stop traveling for a while, I feel unmotivated all of a sudden. I forget why I'm working so hard. I feel like there's a drag to go into the workday. But as soon as I take a vacation, I get all this clarity, and then all of a sudden I come back with my hair lit on fire. And so I'm just like going.
That's how you are right now, man.
I'm like going hard right now. When I come back from vacation, like people are like, dude, what got into Karlton? Like, he's on some type of new pre-workout. Like he went and drunk some type of new tequila in Mexico. Like what's he on?
How often do you go out? Like what's it's like quarterly for 6 months?
Yeah, I would say like probably once a quarter. Like I take like a 2-week, 3-week vacation once a quarter. Me and my wife have real estate in Florida, so we're there often, and we'll bounce around to different like tropical islands and stuff like that. We're tropical people, so we like to beach, sand.
You were just in Mexico, right?
Yeah, I was just in Cabo.
You want to know something funny? I had a friend of mine who like used to work for me. He sent me a picture of you, Robbie, and all of them just like at a bar top or something. Like, hey, you know these guys, right? And I'm like, LOL, yeah, I do. How was it? Well, how was you were gone for like what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, I was gone for about a week and a half, and it was a great time networking with entrepreneurs who I wanted to establish better connections with. I had recently met Robbie 2 years ago, going to his event, and got a chance to be on his podcast, and he invited me into his inner circle of friends that all go to Cabo, I guess, every single year for New Year's. And so spending some time out there taught me how they operate their businesses and in relationships and things like that, and what things that they're trying to accomplish and heading into the new year. And I got to share my ideas on tax strategy and what I'm doing in my own world.
That's cool, man.
So I loved it.
So fitness, traveling.
Fitness, travel, and environment, which is part of the reason why I went out there to Cabo San Lucas. I have to be around people who are doing great things, or I need to be in conversations where
Is that with everyone?
With everyone. I have to be around people that are striving for great things. I make sure my family's doing that too. And I need to be surrounded by conversations where I feel like are hard for me to stay in. And here's
hard for me to stay in.
And here's the thing that I'm going to say about that. I've been in conversations before this whole crypto thing where people are trying to tell me about crypto and decentralized and Web3. And I didn't understand those conversations, but I stuck in those conversations. And you know what happens when you're in conversations where people are talking above you sometimes? They drop a ladder. They drop a ladder to bring you up. They can sense when you're humble and when you present yourself as somebody who just wants to learn. They can realize that, and they'll drop a ladder down and be like, okay, let me help you get there. So when I was sitting with Ravi and Jeff, and I didn't really know about what they were talking about when it came to with the click-through rates and some of the stuff that they were talking about in Hyros and ads, they pointed their direction both my way, and they broke the whole
that's
thing
cool.
down. And so I'm like, wow, I like being in conversations sometimes where I don't really know everything, because I'm gonna sit there and be eager to learn and wait for my opportunity.
Excuse me. So aside from like business, like what are other like main values that have instilled in you growing up that you think is important? Because, I know because I'm sure when you mean challenging conversations, it's not just business oriented, right? Because I think a lot of people focus so much on like money. Surround yourself with people who are more wealthy than you. Money, money. Do this, do that. When like we've forgotten about like, I don't know if you're religious or whatever. Like, what about religious values? What about moral values? Like, I have certain friends, I'm gonna be honest, who are completely broke.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I sit with them, zero conversation about business. But I keep them around because they remind me to pray. They remind me like about God. They remind me about other things that I think at the end have a higher, at least for me, stance above money.
Of course.
Do you have similar relationships like that in your life, or is it really just purely business focused for you?
Oh yeah, and to piggyback off what you said, I'm a religious person, and I don't think it's all about money. I think money is a tool that helps us get where we want to go and provides with some of the things that we want to do for our families, and the legacy we might want to leave could revolve around us having money. But my faith has guided me, and my family is very faith-filled, and I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. And some of the things that I think about that come to mind when you say that is, not burning bridges. I think that's one of the things that would pride myself on is, I've had a lot of relationships where that went south, and whether it was me in the wrong or the other person in the wrong, I never burned a bridge with that person. And whether we didn't see eye to eye, I never wanted to have bad blood in the marketplace with anybody. And so that's like a very important thing, is like I never want to burn a bridge, whether it's an employee or anything like that. And being honest. I would say there's so many times in the business world where you have the opportunity to lie about something.
Oh, for sure.
It's so easy.
Especially when you're in a promotion standpoint.
Oh my gosh, it's just so easy to just let something come off your tongue. But as soon as it leaves your mouth, you can't get it back. And so I'm grateful for my wife, because my wife instilled a lot of values in me, and she's just this super genuine, honest person, and she got me to, break some of these old habits that I have where I like to gloat about things that weren't even real. And so she got me to just like, Karlton, what are we doing? What type of life are we trying to live, man? Who are we trying to impress? And also, that was another thing I would say. Stop comparing myself to other people. It's okay to enjoy what somebody else has. Be grateful for what they have, but dude, turn around and look at yourself in the mirror and be like, Jesus, I'm grateful for this person. I'm grateful that God put me here, and then I get to breathe today and feel these emotions. Feel the emotion of looking at somebody online who's celebrating on a yacht and being happy and genuinely happy for them.
Yeah.
And knowing that this all is possible in this world, right? And envy can be a killer to somebody, man. I really, really hope somebody listens to this. Envy can be a killer to what you're trying to grow.
You know what's funny? I think I want to add to that, because I don't think it's very obvious to some people when they're envious. Mm-hmm. I think it's like a silent attacker. Because you're scrolling through social media and you're like, oh, that's cool, that's cool. That's
but every
cool,
time you
that's
scroll
cool,
through every time you scroll through social media, that could be emotional trauma to you.
Yeah, because you're like,
Without
oh,
you
that's
even
cool.
knowing.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
You could be having many traumatic episodes.
So we get some water. Do you have some water? Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
We could be having many traumatic episodes every single day just by simply scrolling social media without even realizing it.
Yeah.
You could be in a state of depression just because you choose to interact with your phone 6 to 8 times a day and make a couple of scrolls, see a couple of things, and that has an impact on you. It has the impact where you feel like you're without, you're never going to get, and this starts to weigh heavy on you in your environment where you're at. And so a lot of people will struggle with depression because of social media.
100%. It's the killer to comparison, man. It's like you're always like, oh, don't have that. And I'm talking about this right now because we're in a space where it's kind of the culture to show everything.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but at least from the people that I know that we may both know, it's part of the marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Check this, check that, check this, check that, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I just hated. I couldn't stand it. I was so ugh. Every time I would meet someone, the first 30 seconds of the conversation, completely thank you, bro. The first 30 seconds of the conversation is always what do you do? How much money do you make? What car do you drive? Da da da. And it's just When are we gonna ever talk about something aside from that? You know, and so I really appreciate. I actually love my friends who don't talk about business.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I got an abundant amount of people that do, man. You
Yeah.
know, and it's like when I talk to those guys, they were just, hey, let's go pray. You want to go play some soccer? Like, it's just like simple stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I started to really fall in love with that, man. Because
Yeah.
when I first started, it was like, I have to surround myself with people that are better than me, smarter than me, da-da-da. And I did, great.
Yeah.
Then it's just like effing overload, you
Yeah.
know? And so I think it's really important to have
Because
that
like, it
balance.
becomes like a status game almost.
1000%, especially here in OC, you know?
I feel like that is existing because of the internet and what's going on with the internet and what you can see now, that people feel like, you know, entrepreneurship is happening at a younger rate. And
Yes.
so it's about status now,
Yes.
who has the flashiest jewelry or the nicest cars or the best views of Miami, right? Has the biggest balcony,
Yeah.
right? And I just think it's a status play. But I think, honestly, it all comes down to your character. Like, who are you internally as a person? Like, what are your real values? Because you could be wearing Gucci flip-flops and a Fendi bag, and your heart could be completely empty. Or you could be wearing Gucci sandals in a Fendi bag and giving out money to church every single day, right? So, like, who are you internally? Because all that other stuff really doesn't matter.
Yeah, the internal work is the most important. I think that's actually the coolest thing about entrepreneurship, by the way.
Yeah.
Because it forces you to, like, do a lot of heavy internal work that
Yeah.
you probably wouldn't have if you didn't decide to go on that path.
Agreed.
Because you get to points in your life where you're like, if I want to grow, like, it becomes so obvious. Like, okay, I've had these bad habits, for example. I know if I want to go further, I got to stop.
Yeah.
You know, and there's nobody there to tap your back and tell you, nah, bro, you're good. Like, none of that. It's like, if you want to grow, you have to go through that. And,
Yeah.
and you learn a lot in that process.
Oh, for sure you do. For sure you
Yeah.
do. And you start realizing what things made sense to focus on and what things made no sense to focus on, right? I mean, entrepreneurship for me was a big focus on making sure that everything I did was 100% correct. Like, grammatically correct, every, you know, font and thumbnail. And I'm like, wow.
You're a perfectionist?
I was.
Oh, was?
I was.
Okay.
I spent so much time on being a perfectionist that I had analysis paralysis. And at that point in time, we were only posting like once or twice a week. Now we post every single day on every single social media channel. I don't even look at some of it anymore because I'm like, dude, if I recorded it, let it rip.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just let it rip.
I'll learn and I'll go, whatever, who
'cause
cares?
Now I have a bigger vision, right? But I think, you know, there's just levels to entrepreneurship. There's levels to figuring out what works well for you.
Yeah, no, I think too. It's interesting because, like, you know, like talking about guys like Andrew Tate, for example, what he's going through. It's an interesting thing to have such a character. I can't do that. I don't know about you, but like with social media, like I feel like if you want a massive amount of views, you
Yeah.
have to kind of become this character.
He's good at it. What do you think about Andrew Tate?
I think I don't know enough about the guy from a personal perspective to give you
Yeah.
an opinion.
Yeah.
He is Muslim now. I'm Muslim, so
Yeah.
we got that brotherhood. So I can't really look if he from a Muslim standpoint, if I find evidence where it's 100% for real, he's done certain things.
Yeah.
That's undeniable. Then we can have a different discussion. But as of now, I don't see anything.
Right.
I think he's an amazing marketer, a phenomenal character, a great actor. Nobody ever talks about that.
Yeah.
He's just so damn good. It's funny because people fall right into the trap. He'll say stupid things. Right before he got arrested, did you see his Twitter video?
No, I did not. What happened?
Yeah, so he's getting a pizza box, and he goes, "Hey, make sure this box is not recycled." He just says stuff like that just to trigger people. You know what I mean? and it's hilarious because you look at the comments and people are like, "F you, man! You don't care about the world." And I'm like, how do you guys not understand that? This is just a joke to him.
Yeah.
The guy shuts the camera off and he's like, "Whoop! All right, these guys fell for it again."
He understands human behavior on such a deeper level that he
He's
knows
smart.
he knows how to play into all of our emotions.
He's very smart.
He knows when someone's going to get triggered over something. He knows when someone's going to lash out over something, or even when someone's going to get so jealous over something. And he knows how to target all these different areas of emotion that reels you in whether you like him or not.
Yeah.
And I think that part of his business structure allows for him to have this presence on the internet that feels like it hasn't gone away. It doesn't feel like even with him being in prison, his voice, or
he's
he's in
still
jail.
active all over.
Or
He's in
I
jail
think
right
he's
now,
in
yeah.
jail right now. Sorry,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
prison. even with him being in jail right now, it's like his videos are trending even
Still up,
more.
yeah.
I feel like I'm seeing his stuff even more right now. So he's definitely done a great job of targeting those different points in his content.
I find it crazy how like my mom brought him up the other day. I was
Wow.
like, whoa.
Here we
like,
are.
yeah. Because like my mom, like I don't know about you, but my mom, like immigrant parents, super old school. Like if they bring someone up, like the only people they'd be talking about is like Beyonce or like some like world class like superstar. Like she was like, oh, who's Andrew Tate? And I'm like, what? You know. And so he's really like done a very damn good job. I mean, a year and a half ago, nobody knew who the hell this guy was.
No.
You know.
No one knew who he
And
was.
so to think that like he's amassed that amount of fame in just the span of a year is nuts. I will tell you though, I'll always like obviously like respect everything he's done, and I think you know he has a great background. But he just seemed to me as the kind of guy that's had a past.
Oh, for sure.
You know.
Yeah, and everybody does, right?
Yeah, everybody
Oh,
does,
yeah.
100%, and we all have a past. So like
Yeah.
we're not here to judge his past. I think presently these accusations, etc., are not something that I think are legit. You know, but if they want to really bring him down, they could possibly dig something up
Yeah.
from like 20 years ago. You
We'll
know?
see.
So I'm interested to see how it turns out, man.
I am too. The whole world's watching.
Yeah,
and that's
it's-
crazy,
it's-
right?
it's so
He has the
nuts.
whole world's attention. I think there was like a point where he was the most Googled person over
For like 3 months.
the Pope, over
For
president.
90 days.
Yeah.
You know how crazy that is? That's nuts. But you know, that's a whole other conversation because now you got like 2023, and then like also there's a lot of things that are happening, like the whole woke society.
Yeah.
This year, social media, everything. I'm just curious to see how it comes out. But where can people find you, man? Like if they want to look you up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm Karlton Dennis on all social media channels, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Anywhere you like to watch content, I'm probably there. So feel free to reach out and connect with us, and we'd be happy to support you in your goals to paying the least amount of taxes possible.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, I think we should do a part 2 because like we have a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, we can rip
Yeah,
again.
we can go for hours. But I appreciate you hopping on, man. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate it.